Hello. Welcome to the informational session for Wildland Fire for Frontline EMS. This is geared to just be a kind of an informal session here where we're going to review kind of the initial requirements and what you need to get into Wildland Fire. And with that, we're going to begin here in just a second once I have my slideshow up and running. I really appreciate you guys joining me today. Hopefully I can answer some questions for you and just start the conversation about what to expect when you go on your first deployment. The topics we're going to cover is going to be a quick introduction, types of roles you're going to do on a wildland fire, qualifications, personal considerations, and deployment overview, kind of what it looks like. My name is Brenton Matthews. I'm the Wildland Fire Program Manager. My background is quite extensive in EMS. You can see all the stats here. A bit of 911 experience, IFT, critical care, occupational health, 4 years as a wildland fire medic, and offshore and contracting. I've been employed with Frontline EMS since 2021. Frontline EMS began in 2018. 2019 was supposed to be their first fire season. However, there were no calls, and that had everything to do with it being a slow season, which you'll find as you get into wildland fire. You never know when the next season is going to be a slow one. But since that time, they've grown consistently and sustainably in the wildland fire space, and they've had a lot of success. Some of the other areas we work in include ground and fixed wing service, IFTs in Boise, industrial medicine, mining operations, and some other federal contracts around the country. In our last 2 years of wildland fire seasons, we've had 2024, which was a record season for us. Over 70 providers were deployed to fires. One provider even got as many as 120 days. And then 2025, even though it was a slow season, by this time we had our recipe or formula figured out, and we were able to get nearly 70 providers deployed to wildland fires. In this past season, in 2025, we had 5 paramedics break 100 days, 3 were over 120 days, and 1 hit 131 days. For EMTs, we had 5 EMTs over 60 days and 2 EMTs over 80 days, which, as many of you know, or if you've experienced with wildland fire, it's less common to get EMTs out. It's just paramedics are in much higher demand. So we're going to go into types of roles. Both EMTs and paramedics can respond in similar capacities to wildland fires. It depends on the request coming from the incident itself. So if they're asking for like a ALS or BLS unit, that's what we're sending. So paramedics are definitely in a larger demand. The job itself on a wildland fire is medical coverage, standby medical coverage. So we're not doing the role of a firefighter. But with that said, we still have to integrate into their environment. So we integrate, but we're distinct from them in a lot of ways. Types of roles. So an ambulance, that's a really common one. Typically, it's going to be an ALS unit. It's rare for a BLS unit to be requested. They're almost always 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, stock similar to a 911 service. You're typically going to be road-based when you're on the incident, so you're not going too deep in the forest. Transports are usually going to be to a local resource, such as local 911 service, or in some cases to a hospital. Our ambulances, as you can see in this picture here, have been built, purpose-built for the job. So we've done a suspension lift on them, all-terrain tires, and brush guards. This was the first year we were using it, and there's no brush guard yet. And then one of the things our providers really enjoy is Starlink on all of our ambulances. This was the Boulder fire in 2024. I was there, took this picture, and this was the day it blew up. So traveled tens of thousands of acres on this one day. A single resource line medic, this can be either a paramedic or an EMT, and typically you're just one provider responding to a wildland fire incident in a four-wheel drive pickup truck or SUV. And this is a very diverse position on a fire because you can be in many, many situations. So we're typically going to be where the firefighters are. So if they're hiking in several miles into the forest, we're going to be there with them. But there are other times you may be vehicle or road based. And then we have, as you can see in this picture on the Forsyth fire, our providers, these are two single resource medics that work for us, and they were being flown into a remote spike camp. This past season, we also had many people boated in. And so to go out as a single resource, because you have to kind of know the job, you're relying only on yourself in a lot of cases, you need to have fire line experience. So typically we will send out a single resource medic after they have completed some some ambulance roles with us. A UTV med mod, every year we send out 1 or 2 med mods typically. This is going to be a paramedic and EMT together. It's UTV based. It's more capable than a single resource because of the UTV. It's a tool that we use, and it can go in rough terrain where a pickup truck or something may not be able to. Typically they don't transport, but in the cases of needing to extricate a patient from a very difficult situation, they can be utilized in limited scope. If you are looking at getting onto a UTV team, just be aware that there may be additional training requirements, like actually completing a driver course for a UTV training. RIMS. This is kind of the exciting thing of wildland fire, at least a lot of people consider it to be that way. It's going to be a 4-person team typically, unless it's a type 3, or also called a RATS team, where you're just going to have 2 providers. Usually, or actually should always be ALS capable. You're going to have at least 1 paramedic, and their main scope is rope access and extrication. This requires a lot of additional training over what we're going to talk about today, which is going to include UTV driver training, and then a rope operator, tech, or specialist course. These courses are multi-day links and quite extensive in what they go over. Vehicle extrication is another part of it. And then a really key part is time spent training with the team that you're going to be on. And so this is coming as advice from someone who's been around a lot of RIMS teams, is be wary of any companies that want to add you to the team just based off of the certifications that you hold. That can be a very dangerous thing. And teams that take the RIMS role very seriously, they do provide in-person training with their team. They're not just going to send you out just based off of the certifications you have. Now, moving into qualifications. So this first bullet point in required qualifications is what I think should be required. It's not officially required, but for our company, we do require 911 experience. And so ideally, 2 to 5+ years is going to be good, but we'll take as much as we can get. Other good places of experience in combination with 911 experience is if you were a military medic, you've worked ski patrol, occupational health, ER tech, all these things are going to contribute to your base of knowledge, and we will consider that in any applicants that apply to our company. ICS 100 and 700, these are just your normal instant command structure FEMA classes. So you can go, and most people already have these if you've worked 911, but if you don't, they're easy to obtain online. S190, Introduction to Wildland Fire Behavior. L180, Human Factors in Wildland Fire. S130, Firefighter Training. This one has an in-person component. The S130 has an in-person component. You need a state EMS license. Compact states are best if and there are several states that are a part of the EMS compact, which are easy to apply for. So if your state is not a part of the EMS compact, usually applying for reciprocity here is pretty easy. National registry, not required, but helpful. And then every year you have to do a work capacity test, arduous PAC test, frequently just called a PAC test. So I'm going to go over briefly a couple of options for you to get qualified. Because there's quite a few ways you can go about doing it. You can attend an in-person, multi-day basic wildland firefighter course. These are going to go over all of the basic requirements that are there for getting into wildland fire. Sometimes they include ICS 100 and 700, and sometimes they do not. The upside to this is that they're instructor-led, so you're not doing anything online. And so for some people, that just works a lot better. Downside, some of these are expensive. I'll go over that. There may not be any options near you. But the places you're going to look for these classes are community colleges, fire departments, and local forests, like National Forest, State Forest. Sometimes will host these trainings. The options here are just some that I pulled off of the web. These are just their advertised prices. I can't confirm or deny that these are their actual prices. Colorado Fire Camp coming in a little expensive, around $700 for the whole class. Treasure Valley Community College, which is pretty close to us. They're at $250. And Three Sisters Wildland Contractors Association, or Wildfire Contractors Association, $325. And that's going to cover all those classes. Again, sometimes not the ICS 100 and 700. Now we're going into kind of the second option, which in my opinion is the easiest and lowest barrier to entry. And you will complete the ICS 100-700 at FEMA's website. Complete the S190, L180, and S30 online. For the S130, again, there is an in-person component, and that one is a blended course. And then attend an in-person S130 field day. Oh yes, and one thing I forgot to mention is these are free, so you're not paying for these classes, any of these. The FEMA classes and these online initial classes are all free. The in-person S130 field day frequently is something you will have to pay for. The cost ranges anywhere from typically $60 up to, I've seen them as high as $200. And then you have to complete the arduous PAC test. Again, this has to be in person. It's usually included in the S130. The training, these online trainings can be found at wildlandfirelearningportal.net. You have to register with this account. It's not the easiest website to use, and there's a couple of major points to think about as you're going through it. You have to register an account on the website, and this may take a few days before it becomes active. So be patient once you've applied to the website. And then when you're searching for courses, you have to go to on-demand courses and scroll through the options. There's no way to search for the specific ones you need. And you find the above classes, so the S190, L180, and S130, and you take those. They're all online, free, and you can complete them over the course of a week or two if you kind of go slowly at it. The online portion of these classes must be completed before attending the in-person field day. So you got to make time for that and make sure that you're getting that done ahead of time. And then, of course, you have to actually go to the S130 and PAC test. These are required. You have to do these in person. So after your first year, you've completed all the training. What do you have to do to remain in good standing each year? So you have to do an annual RT-130. This can be virtual or it can be done in person. Most people take the option of doing it in person because at that time you're usually going to do your annual PAC test. The PAC test has to be done every year. The PAC test is a 3-mile walk with a 45-pound pack done in 45 minutes or less. It is not extremely difficult, but it is something that you want to prepare for. If you jump right into it thinking you're going to pass, you're going to get shin splints, your hips are going to hurt, your shoulders are going to give out, and you're going to fail the PAC test. So I recommend training up to it slowly over the course of a couple of months leading up to your PAC test. And then this is just another kind of consideration to think about. If you are completing all of these trainings in person or just the field day with a company that you plan to be employed with for the season, I would ask them if they release the certs to you upon completion, because some companies do not. I think it's a way to keep you on their roster, to make it so that you don't deploy with anyone else. That's not something we do as a company. We will always make sure that you have the certs, and then that way, if you want to get employment with other companies, you can. Some personal considerations. Personal life, having a stable family life and support system is really important. I say this firsthand experience. I think most of the guys, most of the women that go out with us can state this very emphatically. If you have problems going on at home and you're planning on being deployed for a month, 2 months, it can be a huge stressor. The problems that you have at home don't necessarily go away when you're out on a fire. They just grow bigger while you're away. So that's important, and that's a personal thing you have to decide for yourself. Alternatively, and I know many people like this is not in any way lesser of a thing, but just a low number of ties. If you're in a place in life where you're single, not bound to any one location, or retired, maybe a retired person with older kids, where you're not having to be present at home so frequently, that tends to work really well. Now, there are other people that make this work, even though they have large families and a lot of responsibilities at home. It's just something you have to consider. And then personal qualities that you would have that are very important in the wildland fire space and going into this industry. The first one for me is humility. There is no room for that medic ego when you're on a wildland fire. We're used to, especially working 911, we're used to walking in to a scene and just taking over, taking control, and that's not what we do on a wildland fire. Again, we integrate into the operation that's already taking place, a very large and complex operation that's taking place. We're just one small part of it, and we're there to support and make sure that those guys are safe, and that if they do get injured, we can take care of them. So humility is important. You must be independent and responsible. This job does not have a lot of direct oversight. You don't have an operations manager breathing down your neck every single day, telling you what to do and where to go. You don't have dispatch making sure that you've gone available at the hospital within 30 minutes or less in some cases. You have to be responsible and accountable and do the job. And then you have to have the ability to listen, understand, and ask questions, and then act on all of that information with little oversight. Deployment duration. So when you go on a fire deployment with us, and with any company for that matter, and this applies not just for us as medical, but it applies for the wildland fire industry as a whole, from the firefighter who's digging line to the incident commander on that fire. 14 days is the assignment length. 1 to 2 days of travel are on both ends of that 14-day assignment. And so 16 days minimum that you're going to be deployed for that, or on that assignment essentially. Sometimes, depending on the incident's needs, their requirements, they can extend you for 7 additional days over the 14 days for a total of 21. This is completely dependent on the needs of the incident that you're responding to. We as a company have no control over this. And then when you reset between assignments, typically you're going to have 2 to 3 days to rest. And this is a requirement coming from the Forest Service, from the the contracting officers and stuff. We have to abide by this. It may be possible to go from one assignment to another. That happens quite commonly during the fire season, especially the busy part of fire season. So how can you maximize your season? Well, the busiest time typically is August and September. So if you're one of those people who has, you're doing a bunch of shift trades and taking time off to come out to deploy to fires, August and September is your best bet. Now, this can change year to year, but that's the history has been August and September. Those are the busy months. Deployments can begin as early as April or May and go all the way into November. And then we usually expect the season to kick off sometime between mid-June and mid-July. The greatest opportunities available are to the people who can devote extended periods of time. So if you can take off, if you have a full-time job and you're able to take off the time and do shift trades and swaps to give yourself the most amount of time available, that's what's going to benefit you the most. You're going to get the most time out. If you have less than 30 days available at any one given time during the fire season, and you're not local to us, you're not close to us, it's going to be much more difficult for us to find an assignment that fits perfectly for you and to get you out on that assignment. So what happens when we get a call? We have 10 minutes to respond with the availability of the resource. So they're asking if we have the resource that's available, and then we have 10 minutes to decide. Then 12 to 72 hours to get that resource to the fire. This is a very difficult timeline when we don't know people's availability. So this is we mitigate this by staging providers locally at our crew house. Sometimes, given enough time, providers can be flown in quickly to cover the assignment. But local resources, those who are at our crew house, those are local to Boise, those usually go first, typically, just because of the short timelines. So this page here is just kind of a recap of some of the information. If you would like to apply to our company, it's portal.frontlineems.org. Contact us with questions. You can email us here. We are happy to answer questions and to assist you with any of the qualifications mentioned in this presentation. The online training site that you need to go to get these certifications are here. I need to get my video off the screen. I think I'm in the way of the certifications. There we go. So again, required certs, they're all listed here. And then I'm going to go into the chat here and try to answer any questions we have. While I'm looking through these chat questions, I'm going to answer a question that my manager just presented to me. And so it's, why do I like working on fires? And why did I get into it? And so I've done quite a few things in EMS, and can say without a doubt that working wildland fires is my favorite job that I've ever done in EMS. It's exciting. It's you get to be out in the wilderness. You get to see so much of the country. It's a really just absolutely fun time, and I really enjoy it. And personally, it worked out really well for me in my life. The money was good, and it allowed for a lot of time for family and traveling. Yeah, so it's like someone's asking, or maybe just making a statement, also have the fire shelter training in person annually. Yes, that is typically included in the RT-130. Usually you'll do the RT-130 fire shelter kind of refresher and the PAC test. The in-person RT-130 will cover the fire shelter training, correct? Yes, that's right. Yeah, so someone says they have a unique situation. Is there anyone I could talk to or speak to? Yeah, email info@frontlineems.org. You can connect with us that way, and then we can either reach out answering your question through the email, or if a phone call would be better, we'd be happy to have a phone call with you. Okay, are personal devices able to be connected to Starlinks? Yes, we have not limited people connecting to Starlinks at any point. So don't you know, do anything crazy with it, and that won't have to be a rule in the future. Application deadline for, let's see, I obtained my S-130 in late March. Yeah, there is no deadline. So once you've got, you know, you can work towards getting all of your certifications done, even as late as I've seen RT-130 classes available as late as August. So there is no application deadline for this upcoming season. Opportunities for medics in the off season. Absolutely, yeah. So we do have a lot of things, and we're always looking for more opportunities. But adding yourself, going to the portal, you know, going to our portal and applying doesn't do anything to you. It doesn't cause any problems for you. It's a great way to get connected with us, to receive communications from us. We have a newsletter we send out, and then if there are opportunities that come up, we always pull from our roster of people first. So getting on our roster is really good for any EMT and paramedic, because then, you know, you'll receive firsthand information about what we've got going on. Required certs, who do they need to be authorized by, and do you guys provide REMS training? So the first question, we send our certs to a third-party verifier, and then we receive your red card or incident card back from them. And once they have verified it, then we consider you to be a fireline medic or EMT and can respond to fires with us.
REMS.
And then REMS training. So we have in the past provided REMS training. This is not something that we're currently doing, but we still have our REMS leader who does the training for that, and all of our REMS gear. So given clarity and opportunity by the Forest Service to ensure that REMS is going to be a viable thing on fires into the future, absolutely we'll get back into REMS, but at this time we're not doing it. All right. If there's no more questions, we're just going to go ahead and close this this stream. Thank you all so much for joining. I really appreciate your time. And let's see here. I'll get out of here with video. So, all right. Thank you so much for coming. It was I really appreciate the opportunity to present this information to you, and hopefully we'll see your application come across and see you out on a wildland fire this year.